Thank you, Mike. It's amazing how young your mayors are around here. Well, if we hadn't met, I wouldn't be here, so it's good that he was in Washington talking to the students. And one of the things actually he illustrates is a lot of young people should run for local office because, as you know, there are a lot of local offices which often there isn't anybody running against the incumbent. And sometimes there isn't anybody running, period. Like Board of Education, a lot of times in smaller towns, there's just empty. They don't have enough candidates. So it's good to mature young people in the political process, because if they come up to us and they say, well, I'm not turned on to politics, you know what we can tell them? You don't turn on to politics. The lesson of history is politics turns on you in a very disagreeable way. And that's, you know, every generation has to learn its own history. And so it's very good to see someone who's mayor of the town at such a young age. And I hope that we keep on top of him so he doesn't get too old prematurely. The problem a lot of us face when we are trying to struggle for some improvement in our community and we lose, what do we think about? Let's say you're fighting some manipulative zoning system or some stadium that they're requiring taxpayers to build, like in Seattle, or you know, some lack of public transit for older people and so on. When you lose, you sort of say to yourself, you know, if we only had more press, only got on the evening news, if we had more organizers, if we only had more money. And that's a very, very key insight, because the task I gave myself in this book is, what if 17 very rich Americans, these are real people in fictional roles, like Warren Buffett, Ted Turner, Yoko Ono, Bill Cosby, you know, people we know, Bill Gates Sr. and so on. What if they said, you know, all the big money seems to be on the corporate side. All the big money seems to come into the campaign coffers of the politicians. What if we crossed the line and put our money and our contacts and our Rolodex and our experience behind the people, so that they're not left with challenging trillions of dollars of bank and insurance company, drug company, health insurance company power that grinds them into the ground, deprives them of necessities of life or their rights to have access to a more just society. So I put these 17, some of them are in the cartoon here. I put the 17 in January 2006 in a mountaintop hotel in Maui, Hawaii. That's where they met. It was stimulated by the horrors of Katrina's aftermath, where Warren Buffett's sitting in his modest living room and watching day 1, day 2, day 3, all these people streaming out of the city, and their kids, no shelter, no food, drinking water. He just couldn't take it, so he hired all these trucks with supplies and brought some public health workers down, and he's distributing them along the highway, and he reaches a big extended family that was really on the edge. And the grandmother was so gratified, she grabs his hands, cries out, only the super rich can save us. Because you know how everyone, FEMA and so forth. Only the super rich can save us. And that haunts him all the way back in his car to Omaha. And that's when he says, okay, I'm not going to leave $50 billion in a foundation after he passes away. He's going to get it done now. So he gets 16 other people that he carefully screens. They go to Maui, which is their base, their very private base, for 6 months before they reveal that all the headlines they're getting individually for doing various things, taking on the power structure that is all coordinated. And on 4th of July, they have a spectacular news conference, and they show they are coordinated. By that time, the corporate powers are aware of what's going on, and the whole country is aroused, because, you know, when you're this rich, you don't have to beg the media. You're your own media. They actually bought radio and TV stations. One of them was a media mogul, Barry Diller, who's pretty well known, and he buys and sells stations. And when the media realized that these people have a lot of money, they give a lot of free media. That's the sort of ironic thing. That, you know, when Perot ran, because people knew he was a multi-billionaire, the media gave him instant coverage. So they have to take on the Chamber of Commerce in Washington and the Trade Association. No problem. They start a People's Chamber of Commerce with tens of thousands of small and mid-sized businesses who got fed up with the way they're being spoken for by these trade associations in Washington. Political reform, no problem. You start a clean elections party. You take on the most entrenched members of the Congress who are from districts that are one-party districts. They never have an opponent, and they took them on. You want to recruit all the talent you can possibly recruit fast from communities all over the country, and it's really very, very penetrating of communities all over the country. You hire 400 recruiters. They then find thousands of lecturers, local lecturers, one place after another. They didn't prejudge anybody. They didn't say, oh, well, it's the VFW, you know, they just want a bigger military budget. They went into service clubs, Kiwanis, Rotary. They spoke to American Legion clubs, etc., as well as environmental groups and poor people's associations, tenant groups. And it was such an intense level that at one time they reached 1 million people a day, not through screens or email, person to person, just like the old populist farmers did in the 1880s. So they used a lot of these. How do you get people's attention quickly? They found a mascot, and the mascot was a macaw parrot. And they taught the parrot to say very quickly, get up, don't let America down. And they put the parrot on every TV station in the country, again and again and again. The parrot became the best known creature in the country. I mean, people were making jokes about it. They were saying, what else are they going to teach? Patriotic Polly. So, you know, when you write fiction like this, which could be true, your imagination is liberated. And we have to expand our imagination in order to envision real possibilities for this country. Because this country is stuck in traffic. They can't seem to solve any problems anymore compared to even the 19th century, early 20th century. When I wrote Unsafe at Any Speed, it came out in November 1965, November 30th. In 9 months, Congress regulated the auto companies with mandatory safety standards, fuel efficient standards, and required recalls of defective cars. 9 months, Lyndon Johnson signed it into law at the White House. How long has it been since Truman proposed universal health care, which every other Western country has? Since 1946. And we got these cockamamie schemes, no controls over the volcanic costs, and it's not going to work, to put it mildly. It will cover more people, but it's heaven on earth for the health insurance companies and the drug companies. They're getting 30 million customers that they can manipulate with taxpayer subsidies. So this is a book which, once you accept the premise of these people, meaning full-time, broadening their own personal circle, setting groups up, like Ted Turner started a group called Billionaires Against Bullshit. It turns out he always wanted to do that. I called him up. He said, well, you know, I've always wanted to organize billionaires. Well, I said, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. Right? Warren Buffett was always going after executive compensation packages for the Wall Street types, because he thinks that the incentives were so perverse that they led to cooking the books, inflating profits, downloading debts, to get the stock up for the stock options. Well, I show them how to do that. And so each one of these has their own personal mission, and they get fantastic headlines in January, February, March, April, May, June. And then in July, they coordinate.